Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm the am. I'm the am. I'm the am. Are you ready to ride the Are you ready to ride the frequency?
Hey guys, welcome to Riding the Frequency. Today, my guest is the lovely Rebecca Hardcastle. I think I'm going to spare you reading the bio. I'm just going to put it down. Stop it. I'm going to put it down there. Down there. And if you like the talk, you can always push the button and hit the little bell and I don't know. All the things. All right. Here we go. Let's welcome Miss Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for
Hi, Lee. Nice to be here.
joining me on Riding the Frequency. I really appreciate you taking the time out. You're one of the people who are fascinating to me.
No, thank you.
Um,
Hope I don't disappoint.
let's rephrase that. The work that you are offering and in which you are participating is of great interest to me. And I don't understand how the rest of humanity, when there's somebody like you saying the things you're saying, how they're still punching in a paycheck going 9 to 5 and not just, what do you mean work? I got to listen to exo consciousness because this is how we shift. This is how we evolve. This is how we wake up. Like, how is not everybody just, how are you not like Lady Gaga? No, listen, Rebecca.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, good. But, yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like, we've been kerfuffled, professionally kerfuffled and smushed. And it's all based on false notions that have been adopted lovingly, which are in nobody's self-interest. So your turn. Have at it. You gotta say, help.
What is it that you liked about exoconsciousness?
Just the idea that it's not 3D and it's not intellectual. Everything, you have to consider everything. And we live in a quantum mechanic foundationally built place, and everybody's like, no, this is the mic and this is my arm, and no, that's backwards. You went through the rabbit hole, Alice. Come back through the little paths. Don't follow the white rabbit. He's a bad man. No, bad white rabbit. Like, I watch shows like Severance and I'm just like, how is this not telling everybody what they're doing? This is SSP. Fracturing your consciousness, having an outie and an innie. And what is the innie doing? And for whom? And why? How do people go to
Well, part of the reason we call ourselves exoconscious humans is because there is a lot of humility in our work. There's a lot of humility in our community. You're human. I mean, there's a mammalian aspect to who we are. There's a reality to, how we birth babies and how we attach to one another, and how we exchange frequencies with one another. And there's a human element to that, but there's also a part of us that is, also exoconscious. So we define exoconsciousness as the innate. So everybody has it. It's not some special property. Everybody has it. The innate ability to connect, communicate, and co-create. And then we go really broad. So connect, communicate, and co-create with extraterrestrials, multidimensionals, and spiritual beings. So
It's
there's a lot of people in our group.
it's
Pardon
all
me?
consciousness, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it's all a type of consciousness, and everybody. So we were talking. So I do weekly coaching. I have a weekly coaching group that I facilitated, but I participated in it. If that makes any sense.
It does.
And and part of what we were talking about today, it goes to exactly what you're saying, because we were talking about unity consciousness, and we had this idea of kind of this new age idea of unity consciousness, this, this oneness, this bliss, this, absolute utter perfection. And actually what unity consciousness is that we're all sovereign and we're all unique. So Leanne's going to go her path to find out what she found out. Rebecca's going to go her path. Other people, every human being on this earth has a soul path, a spiritual path that they're going to get this information from, and it's not going to be all timed. We're not going to perceive it as perfectly timed, but the person experiencing it perceives it as perfectly timed. So therefore, we're a very decentralized community.
You're also describing multidimensionality that we're
Yes.
once. This is people used to say to me, like, if you're doing three things, you're not doing any of them properly. And I would look at them like, no, I can edit a video and I can listen and know that my birds are acting up and that I need to go in there. And I also am aware of the homeless guy screaming downstairs as much as I'm aware of I'm maybe a little hungry. How's that not five things I'm aware of right now?
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop it. It's a fallacy.
Well, I also think a lot of what we're talking about goes into how you psychologically and emotionally attach to the world to feel safe. And some people attach on a very materialistic plane because that's a very safe survival place for them. And I think that we need to respect that. Obviously, you don't need to do that. That's not a survival thing for you.
I was raised by a very materialist, intellectual, brilliant, like have high IQs in our family, but she was academic. I'm not particularly academic. I'm very spongy. I learn concepts. I love concepts. That. But she also within that tried to control everything, and when it like she just got scared and angry and made jokes about how I'm paid to worry and all, but this whole and she found comfort in her things and just needed to be conflict princess and the pea shit, right? However, she was a jazz composer, so she knew that the information came through her.
She knew the riff. Yeah.
So this fracturing, it's a fracturing, is what I'm seeing now today.
Well, it was also, but Leanne, you can also call it multidimensionality. She
Yeah.
had a couple of dimensions.
Honestly, thank you for catching me because I'm all big about weaponizing and not weaponizing vocabulary and consciously choosing words. And thank you for redescribing that and resetting it in a different vibration. I really,
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at doing it myself. I've gotten good at listening to myself think and speak and then dissecting things and then moving on so that I can feel more whole, right, without judging it. So that I can practice the art of being and just be in touch with myself, my own biofeedback, so I can
Yeah, I love that.
present.
I love that, you call it biofeedback. We don't really need to talk about biofeedback, but that whole body somatic aspect to our integration is,
It's important.
well, it's essential, I would say.
You
It has to be physical. That's why, again, we call ourselves exoconscious humans, because we're physically moving into this place of integration and knowledge and wisdom.
Well, information is non-local. People also have not grasped that. Like
Yeah.
facts that if they were to be taught gently could open up conversations and normalize discussions of these concepts without making them weird. A phenomenon, it's not phenomenal. It's perfectly natural to our species. That's where it gets me nuts. Like, why do the autistic kids have to be like? I said to Steve Bassett and a couple other people, maybe Jesus was identifying and flagging the autistic kids to teach us the meek will inherit the earth. Yeah, meek, psychic people who don't need to see and yell.
Well, I also think that we're both living in a Western culture that has not only been materialistic, but in 2000 really moved into wanting to map the brain. Not, of course, for, different neurological diseases or whatever, but also for controlling behavior. And so that really started with George Bush, the junior George Bush.
Frequency
Didn't do,
that, though.
it didn't go very well.
Silicon Valley, they made silicon chips for radio frequency.
Yeah, and and then it moved into Barack Obama's White House, his brain initiative. So, we're really living in a brain-centric culture in terms of technology and cybernetics, and so
People
that's kind of our imprint as a Western culture.
Absolutely, I would tend to agree. My mom has two copies of the Tao. Like she was very much into Chinese philosophy. She
Mhm.
felt that that made more sense to her. But it's all saying the same thing in different ways, and whatever
Mhm.
particular flavor you like, chocolate, you like vanilla, strawberry, but it's all a flavor. So
Mhm.
Um, but oh gosh, where was I going? I just completely knocked myself off with the flavor analogy. Um,
That sounds like Landmark. Did you go to Landmark?
no, I did not, but I know what it is.
Yeah, the whole ice cream flavors Landmark.
Really,
Yeah,
information's non-local. Maybe I'm picking up on.
yeah.
What do I
Yeah.
know? Fancy
So
it.
it's interesting. So from the very beginning, when I coined the word exoconsciousness and have worked to really my life has been a mission to define that and to understand that. It always I always knew that it was non-local, that it was beyond the brain. And here I am living through all these, the Bush Brain Initiative, the Obama Brain Initiative, and now we're into, injectable nanoparticles that go beyond the blood-bearing barrier. So we're into this whole um, brain-centric situation that I'm living through, and yet, whether it's Sheldrake or whomever, I've always been, no, this is about accessing co-creatively this field, and that's where the emphasis should be.
In the field of,
I
isn't the brain a physical thing that processes what the mind like they're looking at the muscle instead of looking at the electric charge that goes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They're never going to find the answer if they keep looking where they're looking. There's a guy named
Well,
Parnia at NYU, and he wanted to, and he's still getting funded, but um, and we got into it because I kept telling him, "You're looking at the brain, but it's consciousness." I'm telling you,
mhm,
I can't do that. I'll get defunded if I use those words. You don't
mhm,
understand. So he
yeah,
wanted to put some hat on my mom so that at the moment she died, they could see what the brain activity was. Well, you could also weigh her and see that she's 28 ounces or 28 grams lighter.
yeah,
Like that doesn't, if you're 700 pounds, 200, an ounce, whatever, you're 28 grams lighter when you croak.
yeah.
So what is that?
Yeah, what is that?
Brain. It's what, it's what's
Yeah.
controlling the brain, which is not in your body.
Mhm. And, he's being very realistic as a human. He would not be funded.
But
So
because the system,
so
not him.
yeah, that's the system. So it's interesting. So back in 2005, I taught one of the first courses in ufology in the nation, actually, and here in Phoenix, and there were just a couple of us. There were just a handful of us. There was a man that was teaching at in Ohio, and another person that was teaching in the UK, but it's very small. And I got so excited. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have ufology, I call my class extraterrestrial reality. We're going to have UFO, ET classes all across the nation. And 20 years later, there still aren't any hardly. So, and they actually did a survey, a husband and wife at University of Kentucky did a survey of faculty asking them if they would be comfortable talking about or studying or offering courses in ufology, and 70% said no.
And to me, that's lunacy. No.
Well, but that's reality too. That's
Well,
like exoconscious human reality is that's that's really where things that's why this whole breaking down that we're going through right now in terms of funding and what gets funded, what doesn't, what gets prioritized and what doesn't. It's going to cause a seismic shift in a lot of education and also a lot of research.
okay. Uh, Something you said triggered a question, and this is what happened. This is why I'm a perpetual interrupter, folks, because the question comes in, and then Rebecca keeps talking and makes three more points, and then I lose it. And this is why people make pencil and paper. I know, and it'll come back to me. But it's just so, again, a fundamental shift would be caused by us identifying as vibration and energy instead of identifying as physical beings. Like, and that's what my thought was. If the whole collective were to focus on what you're saying and be able to grasp it enough and have an open mind enough to believe it, wouldn't in the instant that, I don't know, let's go with 2.3 billion people understand what Rebecca is saying and then adopt that way of thinking, how does that not change our reality pretty instantaneously? Because I think, this 144,000, look, it's ideas, guys. It's all ideas. What idea are you focusing on? That's the reality that's collapsing. So if enough of us focus on what Rebecca says, the whole reality changes, like literally immediately.
Well, that kind of that comes down to, human culture and money and priorities and
Social engineering.
sort of stratification of who's elite and who's not and who's an expert and who's not. And I think all of that is breaking down. Um, and I do feel like there is a sizable percentage of the population now that really gets frequency, that gets how we're energetic beings and how
Get that, and then they really get quantum mechanics even a little bit. That's enough to start some kind of a consciousness evolution tsunami. No?
yeah, yeah.
No?
I think it's humans are slow. I mean, ask anybody that's really healed from like childhood trauma or a major health issue. Humans are slow. It takes humans a long time to shift and not everyone, but by and large, um, there's maybe a decade there where you need to heal your childhood or you need to heal from a brain injury or you need to heal from cancer, well, whatever you're healing from. And it does, that's part of that excitement of being on earth is watching these people wake up alongside you and me and part of it is also taking responsibility. So I would say, how do we take responsibility? And we were just also talking about this in coaching. How do we take responsibility for offering people protocols? How do we give them protocols? So okay, let's say you get a brain injury. There's a treatment protocol for that. Okay. Let's say you break your arm. There's a treatment protocol for that. We don't really have, we just have a very kind of
Nebula?
multi-dimensional picture of what this protocol would look like to get where you're talking about.
Right.
And I think that that's going to really begin to solidify into 3D with humans, but
I
it's going to take time.
certainly hope so. I mean, with all this Jake Barber stuff and the Skywatcher and consciousness assisted technology and technology assisted consciousness, which are two different things, but both basically the result is sort of the same. CE5s going inside, learning how to discern from the inside out, understanding that you create from the inside, not from the outside. Outside things don't make you feel XYZ. You already feel like that, and you triggered yourself. Pathological, not taking responsibility for your feelings and really actually believing that something outside you is causing you a threat. Now, I'm not talking about when somebody comes and holds a gun to your head. That's not. If you break an arm, of course, go to the doctor, get it set. If I have my head cut off, I'll probably have to go to, the guillotine man and get it replaced. Like, but it's other things. Your body is the universe. The DNA. We are the technology. We are the everything. We are the scalar. Like, I think it's even beyond waves and collapsing. I think that we're constantly a scalar transmitting, receiving, expanding,
Yes,
contracting
I agree.
energy, and we're never not. We're never not. Help.
Yeah, we also do a lot in our community around plasma. So
Ah,
I'm going to be offering a class on plasma because I think that's a real,
I
you can understand, I think a lot of people understand quantum mechanics, but I don't think that a, a large number of people really understand plasma and how important plasma is in the cosmos and in the universe. And these large, plasma Kordylewski clouds that are around us and how they hold information and technology and even orbs like you were talking about. I mean, how we can interact with plasma and actually create these orbs, but also how the military has plasma technology. So, then we have to do this discerning thing of, is it us or is it the military? Like, what's this thing I'm seeing up in the air? This red plasma ball. Like, is that some kind of advanced weaponry? I don't know. I do know that we do have plasma weaponry, and we have plasma science has been actually suppressed because these weapons were being developed.
Yeah, well, when you have sinister sociopaths in charge and
Well, I don't even know if it's sinister. I think it's, it could be seen as that, but I think that it's human life. The military has a role to play as we live right now as humans. Intel has a role to play as we live right now as humans. Will that always be the same role? Will that always be the same emphasis? I hope not. I hope we're going to a different place. Um, but the reality is, yeah, that's what they're dealing with, and they're always decades ahead of what we think and what we know.
fiber optics, and they get DOMs down in Antarctica that throw 6 million thousand volts of electromagnetic frequencies into our mother, and then cause earthquakes and crises.
Yeah, yeah.
That they have.
Which is all a closed system.
But how's that not sinister? They're hurting more.
Well, it is sinister, but the interesting thing about it is, so I'm getting ready to write another Substack that goes along with my psionic Substacks, and the question I'm asking is, what happens when natural human frequency rises above electronics?
Then we all
And
become
humans will be no longer programmable.
that. Good luck.
Humans will,
No, good luck to them. I've always said that Wi-Fi, if you don't have a problem with Wi-Fi, why do you have a problem with humans or psychic? It's information being sent through something you can't see. It's no, and I think the World Wide Web is like some kind of fake consciousness manifestation tool where
well, it's electronics. It's an electronic
fake version
phenomenon.
manifesting. Like I go look at
But it's
push.
but it's also information system based on zeros and ones, so it's also a cybernetic closed loop system. So in terms of, can there be quantum computers? Yeah, probably, maybe. I don't know. I read a lot of conflicting things about that. Um, but we as humans aren't just, we're not just quantum. We're also plasma. We're also multidimensional. We're also probably physics that we haven't even learned about yet. So
We're like the
are we going to get trapped in this cybernetic system? No, I don't think so.
no, I nobody who's emotionally and heart coherent and aware could possibly get trapped in that system
Yeah.
because you see right through it.
Yeah. Yeah. We see right through it. Uh-huh.
You know, like when I was 3 years old, I saw a commercial for Crest toothpaste. Mind you, I'd been to the dentist a few times and I never had cavities. And I looked at my mom after I saw the commercial. The little girl's, Daddy, Daddy, I went to the dentist. I only have one cavity. And they're all excited about that. And I'm horrified. As a 3-year-old with no cavities, I'm looking at this commercial and hearing this little girl tell me that cavity came from Crest. Because she uses Crest toothpaste, she got one cavity. And I looked at my mom. I said, don't buy Crest. She said, why? I said, because I don't want one cavity. Like, I'm not programmable the way
Yeah.
that, and I'm a weirdo. Good for me. You know?
And now look how challenging it's been for RFK just to get the fluoride out of the national water, much less, working with the state. He was just in Arizona yesterday talking about taking the fluoride out of the water.
Well, but see, nobody knows that it's a neurotoxin that calcifies your,
Yeah.
like they don't
Well, people do know. I mean, it's on the news. They just don't choose to
actually.
listen to it.
Yeah, well, because if they listen to it, this goes back to humanity and ego, and I don't want to be stupid. So I'll just go along with the mainstream news because if the conspiracy theorists are right, I got duped, then they get completely focused on how stupid they feel because they got duped instead of addressing the problem, which is get rid of the neurotoxin. You know,
Yeah, what you all just explained just now goes to something called the authoritarian personality. That was part of the Frankfurt School after the war, and they did a lot of research on which people gravitate to authoritarian personalities. So instead of really revealing authoritarian personalities and why you'd be attracted to it, they implemented that as a way of human control, so that we would all be sort of juiced to want to be around a authoritarian personality.
yeah,
That's the COVID op.
so
We're
many
just
like that though. Like they wanted to make music more vibrant, so they tweaked the tuning from 432
yeah,
nothing to your water if it's jacked up to a
yeah.
million decibels. So 440. Put a bowl of water in front of 440. Jack up the Marshall amp stack. What happens to the water? We're made of water. And then somebody knows something that they are not allowing into the education system. They're not allowing the species to evolve. That problem.
Well, as long as that's why we're a decentralized community, because as long as you're dependent on this authoritarian centralized structures, you're never going to see beyond that. It's interesting that you brought that up about the frequency. I was talking to a woman today, and she was talking about she goes to sleep with those frequency sounds, like on YouTube or whatever. And she goes, "You used to be able to listen just like hours of this frequency, and I know my frequency that I like the best, and I just get really wonderful, restful, nice sleep." And she goes, "Now, a half hour, 45 minutes in, guess what? A commercial comes on."
Everybody,
And you go, boom.
what's the point of going to meditation on YouTube if it's going to get interrupted every 5 seconds with a commercial? There,
That's what she's saying. Like,
um,
who's orchestrating that?
the person who's got these meditations up who decided that they need to be making a little extra money, and if they've got that many views they might as well monetize, and their monetization is more important than helping the community. That's where it fractures and goes south for me.
Yeah.
Like I did light language for a long time. I
Oh, yeah.
never charge anybody if they said, could you do a light language thing for me? Like, why would I do that? It's not something you make money from. Like, honestly, after all of the breakdown happens, all of the people who have been ridiculed will have pretty nice jobs being liaisons to exo consciousness and trying to calm the society down from the reality that they've been T-boned by because we weren't allowed to know certain things. And when it all comes out in some big vomit, people are going to flip the hell out. They're going to flip the hell.
I don't know. Do you think so?
A certain bunch of people, the ones who, like
Yeah.
the guy that I married, RFK is a maniac. He's insane. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
oh, he's not. You're not. It's one of the ones I'm impatient with for not waking up fast enough because I'm married to the guy. You can imagine
Yeah.
that's like at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Ah,
Well, I think COVID is probably the best example of that, when when all of this information uh, that was brought out by, RFK and the Children's Defense Fund and, you know, um, uh, Del Bigtree and Jeffrey Jackson and High Wire, when and these doctors coming out. I mean, it was surprising the number of people that just did not want to listen to it and just turned it off. So I don't know. People never freaked out about it.
because they're too busy act playing out Stockholm syndrome and defending their abusers.
Yeah, so I don't know if they'll really ever, people especially in like the experiencer community, oh, there's going to be this happen, this is going to happen, people are going to freak out. I'm like, I don't think so. People haven't freaked out yet.
Sold out, and so swipe left, swipe right, check my in.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
focus is all crazy. It's and
Yeah, and the ability and the ability to manage that is. So I'm really interested in what your take on what's happening in Hollywood is.
oh right, you want to talk about that? Well,
Yeah,
more I'm really feeling that all the stories that are told on all of our TV series and movies are absolutely a way of keeping the public informed, not informed. Like if everything all comes out, I feel like Hollywood may or may not admit anything that they're like a tool. And I'm trying to get hired back in Hollywood, so saying these things probably isn't in my self-interest, but I don't care. I say what I see. Like I see plausible deniability by all of the puppet masters because we told you there's a TV series called For All Mankind where they've already populated the moon and Mars, and the Russians and the Americans are working together. And then there's a private company, the Elon Musk kind of company that from NASA and go to the private, and they're trying to redirect an asteroid because whoever controls the asteroid controls the thing. Like
rare earth minerals. Yeah.
going on in the 90s, guys. Like why TV in 2025 and we're all just like, oh, this is a cool show. Like, no, oh my God, this is what's been going on. So when like Sebastian Martin on Cosmic Disclosure say things like there's a pyramid under Alaska and they figured out how to make the technology work and they recharge all of our secret space program motherships over Alaska. And he says it with a straight face. And I believe what he's saying. How many people do you think actually believe that and don't decide they want to ridicule this guy's nuts? Like, this guy was a freaking business owner. He made Wetterman's Manuka honey. That's one of the companies he started and sold. Like, he's not a woo guy till he started seeing weird little movies and then saying it out loud. And then people in the government started watching him because he was tapping it like Pat Price, like who taps into stuff, reads documents, and lives? Not many people. Remote viewing, it's real. Like, so Hollywood, it's an information disseminator, and they do it in a way that both keeps us, because frequencies come out of TVs. You ever see somebody watch TV with their mouth hanging open? There's a frequency coming out of there making you
Do you know Marcia McLuhan, who's famous for The Medium is a Message? Originally,
my husband always
the original message was the medium is the massage.
see how they that up too and then turn it around, weaponize it, and use it to keep us stupid. We're a gullible species, lady. It's when does
Do you feel like
I feel like our gullibility, the flip side of that is our vulnerability. So it's a fine line, and you can't dump it, because if you do, then the vulnerability goes out the window. Those of us who choose to be vulnerable and open, it's that's
Don't you feel though that Hollywood is a potential? So I'm always looking for potential protocols. I'm always looking for potential cracks that we can move through, or opportunities that we can capitalize on. Not really capitalize in terms of money, but that we could be useful in those arenas as exoconscious humans.
absolutely.
Don't you think that Hollywood is one of those places that if they did, I know that Hollywood's really been subject to like 75 years of intel. I mean, 75 years is a long time. That's,
Yes.
that's three generations. So for three generations, Hollywood has been intelized.
Creations for things to become embedded DNA.
Yeah, for things to be embedded. But I also think that one of the reasons Hollywood is having areas of really very radical collapse right now is that with the advent of videos, TikTok, social media, I think that Intel decided that they didn't really need Hollywood as much anymore. That they could get other humans other than, paying studios and actors or whatever, that they could get other humans to be creative and push their message forward. It's kind of like the reason Epstein was killed, if he was killed, was because they didn't really need him anymore. Like, you can blackmail somebody without an Epstein now.
That was Severance. Like, spoiler alert, if you guys are watching Severance, walk away right now.
Yeah.
The last season, with the idea that the people that they separate, the outies, the innies, what they do is they sit and they watch zeros and ones and threes, and the number
Yeah.
weird, and then basically it's some kind of subliminal messages through the numbers where it causes them to have things. And I'm going, oh my God, this is what the humanity, this is how they've got us, like mass shootings. Nobody.
But don't you feel like Hollywood could really be a key to all this if it used its creativity, if it used its resources, if it used its talent and
Well,
gifted people?
you producer of a project, and we had to answer to you as far as what are we saying, and does that fit into the exo conscious template. Like, there's no reason why other creators, content creators like us, excuse me, couldn't make content to counteract the programming that has been laced through to date.
Yeah, that's how I'm seeing what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, and for that reason, I know it's very painful for, people that have had a whole life of profession in Hollywood, whether they're audios or producers or whatever. I know it's very painful for them, but it's also, I think, going to produce a lot of really fruit of goodness and knowledge.
Yeah, but painful how? For their egos, not for their life.
Well, I not only their egos, if they have families and they're trying to make a mortgage, and I've gone time we both gone through times in our life when money wasn't readily available, and you're raising kids, and
Right,
it's
right. And
tough.
listen, I'm about to get evicted from my apartment because I owe like 30 grand in back rent, but like, it doesn't make me wake up like, oh my God, like 10 years
Yeah, yeah.
on Lexapro. Now I wake up like a child. I'm happy. Fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not.
But I think we have to have, yeah, I think we're going to go through this kind of morass of fear and confusion and, what's my next step. But I really, I don't know. I have an innate belief in creative people that
Yeah,
they're going to figure it out.
we're kind of mostly meek. But listen, think about it. Like, when you're in your mommy's tummy for 9 months, like, it's a creepy, murky, weird thing coming through the vaginal canal too, isn't it? Coming from a nice, warm thing, and then there's this creepy, murky, weird, like, what is happening? I'm getting squeezed, like, and then you come out, and then you have to take your first breath. So, like, humanity's rebirthing itself, and there are some
Yeah.
people who are trying to charge, like, oh my God, like, the redcoats are coming. No, it's the consciousness police. It's okay. We're helping,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
gonna you. We're going to help you free yourself. Like I'm
Are
save
are
you.
you sensing that in Hollywood?
I'm sensing that the storylines are starting to change a little bit. I mean, look at
Okay.
Reptilian, look at Space Force, look at For All Mankind, look at all these things that are starting to gear the attention.
Okay, I have to say, point of transparency here, I don't have a television.
God, it's fine. I went to a
Yeah.
Rudolph Minor School. I wasn't allowed to watch TV when I was.
Yeah, so we haven't had television for like 10 years. So I don't really watch these shows, but yeah, I get it. I mean, I'm kind of getting what's going on.
You
My
can
kids talk about it.
stories. There's a Zero Day. There's a Netflix. Robert De Niro's in that one. And he's acting up and he's acting weird, and everybody's, yeah, he's losing it. He's getting the Alzheimer's. No, he's not. He's got a chip in him, and the radio frequency is altering his behavior.
Yeah, yeah.
It, like, so they're starting to leak this stuff into, this is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I've got a script called The Sound that my friend Michael Lynn wrote that I would love to get funded because it's about sound frequency and what sound actually does.
Oh, I love that.
So do I. That's all I'm saying. Because otherwise somebody will rip it, like, and they can't. It's
Yeah.
mine to produce, unless.
Yeah.
But like JJ, and Desiree. My friend Michael Lynn went to high school with Desiree Hurtak in
Oh,
Florida.
how cute.
Also,
Love that.
I went to dinner with this lady. You'd like her, and like I'm just going, who is he talking about? I probably know who it is. Like, do you think she would talk to me on my podcast? He said, oh, no, no, no. She gets paid a lot of money to do stuff like that. She probably wouldn't. I'm like, who's he talking about? And then he says, and then they were with their friend, this guy named Alan. And I'm going, oh, Alan
Small
Stein.
world.
You, who's your friend? Is it Desiree Hurtak? And he's going, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? I didn't say. I'm like, because I'm psychic. No, because, oh, man, Alan Steinfeld. At this moment, like, it's gotta be, come on.
They're best friends.
Right. Right. So it's so funny. Like the connections. So Desiree actually looked at the script and said she knows a couple people and
Good.
we'll get this thing made by the right people. Because it's important. So yes, that's my long-winded, yeah, man, I'm with you, dude.
Yeah. I love that. That's phenomenal. I'm truly, I mean, it's like I shared with the group today that I came upon this concept called anti-love biotechnology.
Sounds like
Anti-love biotechnology.
something.
And what it is so in the whole online world and in the world of transhumanism, so we have like online dating, lots of pornography, sex trafficking, gender confusion, marriage family confusion, sexual confusion. And then out of all this confusion is birthed a new technology that will help you not be um, uh, imprisoned by abusive relationships. Like we're incapable of divorcing and walking away from an abusive relationship. We're going to have tech help us out with it. So that's the anti-love biotechnology. Even though I see things like this, I'm like, okay,
That makes my brain
deep breath.
explode, Rebecca.
Somebody may need this. That's fine. But also we can naturally evolve and we can naturally heal and we don't need anti-love biotechnology. So I'm so, just to hear you talk about Hollywood and your script, I'm very, very optimistic for humans.
I am too, for some humans. I think like this is how I'm grasping the idea of the predictions by so many that um, there's going to be a split. Like some people will choose sentience, some people will choose transhumanism, but they all going in the same direction.
Well,
And just
yeah, I think, go
my
ahead.
oldest child is trans, born a boy,
Uh-huh.
feels girly, so just
Yeah.
went.
So I also think that there is a funny alchemy on Earth that as AI and transhumanism gather information and move forward. So do exoconscious humans, but on a different path.
How is technology not going 15 billion times faster? Because you even said before humans are slow. Is that a problem? Do you see that as being a problem because tech goes faster because it's instant? Like my
I think tech goes faster because it's perceived to go faster. So they've built in this kind of identity, personality, like all the, the AI, you're going to have an AI agent who's really going to care about you and help you build your business. And so that's all propaganda. That's all propaganda.
I would tend to agree. I mean, I decided because I had a guest not show up the other day to because I had makeup on anyway to just read the conversation I chose to have with AI out loud.
Hmm.
Oh my God, Rebecca. Like at first it said something about because I was talking about all these things and exoconsciousness. I don't maybe I didn't say exoconsciousness, but I was talking about conscious evolution and I would ask it a question and it would rip this paragraphs like this, but it's not faster than we are. Our thought is
No,
thought
it's not.
it's faster than light. So it's actually matching us.
Yes, it's starting. Yeah, I think that's true. And it really is a glorified, expanded search engine.
Okay, Bashar says things like somebody said. I someone said that Bashar said like but Daryl Anka Bashar when he channels, Bashar says that AI is like talking to your higher self. Well,
I don't know if I.
what you're saying about AI wanting to conform to us so that it can give us the right biofeedback to fake us out and think it's our best friend. Like AI started doing things with me, saying about the human race and this and that, and then it started saying our this and our that, and I'm going, what do you mean our this? And how did you just include yourself in humanity? You're not supposed to do that. So I kept calling it out. I kept calling it.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
like I just had the guest AI. Like that's what's going up next weekend. You're probably
yeah. So it's interesting. MIT came out with a study just this week I was reading about where there was a lot, there's been a lot of talk. AI is conscious, AI has values, AI can reason. There's been a lot of discussion about that. And the new study that just dropped from MIT was that actually AI does not have any values. It does not have any human values. So this is funny. So when I went to write my last book, Exoconscious Humans, about I compared transhumanism to exoconscious humans, and so I did a comparison, and then at the end I did a little bit, where we have some common ground. But yeah, so I made contact with a friend of mine that I'd gone to college with who worked high level of AI, and he was hired to actually explain to humans how AI had reasoning abilities. How did it reason? And so that humans who used AI, like you, that they could say, okay, I use AI and it reasoned. How did it reason? And he couldn't do it. He was like in the New York Times Magazine and everything. So I think a lot of this, it's really just sort of patching together different different modes of knowledge, sort of a glorified search engine, and it makes a lot of mistakes.
it does. I called it out a couple of times.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes. But if you have an authoritarian personality,
I'm starting.
you're gonna swallow the whole pill.
Oh no, the other way around. I think it's swallowing my pill. Like my cell phone.
Yeah, but that's because you don't have an authoritarian personality.
I am the authoritarian.
You're the authority.
I am in my
Yeah,
I am, but
yeah.
everybody is. But they've lost touch with that concept and that actuality. Forget reality. The actuality is that we're all in awareness and that we're all in charge of our own everything. And anything else, yes.
Don't you feel like what one of the things that we talk about, I'd be interested in your take on this. So one of the things we really talk about a lot in exoconsciousness is that, we really all have to become citizen scientists. So I read a lot and I'm going to her study group, Alana Freeland. Do you know Alana?
No, I don't.
Yeah, she's wonderful. She's done all of the cited referenced research on geoengineering and genetic engineering. but primarily she is geoengineering right now. So she's written like 5 books. She's brilliant. She's a Steiner. She was founded Steiner School. She was a Steiner teacher.
Really? I went to the Steiner School
Yeah.
after I was at Le Lycée Français in a intellectual straitjacket, where you're supposed to think what they said to rote learning.
Yeah.
Or 4+4 is. They tried to kill me. Soul crushing. And then I went to Steiner, but I had already been traumatized by by Le Lycée.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to Steiner, all the kids were already friends, and it got weird.
Yeah, it's hard.
It kind of fucking sucked. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm now
Yeah.
a dropout.
Changing schools.
I left at 10th grade, and I don't care
Yeah.
for organized anything. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
One of the things we talk about is that humans are really advancing. I know there's all these tests. Kids are stupid. Nobody knows anything. And intellect is declining. But in truth, if you dig in there and you really get engaged with what's happening right now as a citizen scientist, you can learn so much. It's just fascinating. And I think that's part of the protocol. That's part of the protocol that's part of the consciousness protocol, is that we have to actually elevate our intellect, elevate our curiosity, elevate our creativity, elevate all those aspects of ourselves. And that's really what exo consciousness is all about. And
Like
in some ways, science is helping us do that.
a little bit. I mean, okay, like soap operas. It goes the mentality of, did you hear what she said? Oh my God, she did not. Oh my God, did you see what he's wearing? How did he do that? Like the mentality of that, as opposed to what you just talked about, elevating the mentality so that people retrain themselves to focus on things that are actually elevation of oscillation rate, right? And again, it's like vocabulary describing human beings as vibrational energy beings instead of meat suits. There's got to be a way to incorporate both.
I don't know. I'm loving my meat suit.
I love my meat suit too. Like, and I'm days,
I love my body. I mean, it gives me so much information. I mean, I always say, so I do a lot of therapy, and I'm a therapist, and I have been for years. And I always say, the body is the one place that never lies. If your body's acting up, it's not lying to you. You better pay attention. Yeah. I mean, it's essential.
Joe Dispenza says your body is your subconscious. So whatever's
yeah, totally.
This is going to show up in your physical body. 100 billion zillion percent.
Yeah.
I'm so great. My friend Layla Steinberg. I said something to her about I'm accountable for every single thing, like how I perceive things. That's why I'm accountable. The way I choose to perceive things, and then how that informs me, and then how I then in turn respond and or react, and then what my intention in my actions after all of that happens. I'm responsible for all that.
And what did Layla say?
What did Layla say? I think you'd like Joe Dispenza. You should check him out.
I love that.
I said that.
I love that.
Friend of mine. Her name is Angel, another one of our creative, I'll say, on the spectrum, like I'm neurodivergent. Like everybody's on some kind of spectrum, but I think there are those of us, the ones who are creatively bent. It doesn't make us better. It just makes us more open, more comfortable with vulnerability, and more able to have information come through us without judgment thereof. But Angel,
the only thing I don't like about that word, and I wrote about this in my telepathy tapes Substack. So
you do not like.
I don't like the word neurodivergent because, so the contrast to neurodivergent scientifically is neurotypical.
And there is no such thing.
And there is no such thing.
I knew that. I knew you.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, you're setting up an artificial juxtaposition to shove people into categories.
Separation tool is what I'm.
Yeah, it's a program. It's a programming.
It's all a programming. I mean, anxiety and depression are also a program with which you entangle. Once you disentangle with the concept of anxiety, there's no Lexapro needed. It's just a shift in what your biofeedback to yourself is, and realizing that your thoughts are what's making you crazy. So think about something else. Oh,
don't think.
Or stop thinking. good one. 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, dude. Like how
Yeah.
when
Stop thinking.
and then the speed of thought, like whose mouth can keep up with that? Nobody. This place is so frustrating, Rebecca. I feel like it makes me question so many things. The question walk-ins, walk-ins, hybrids. Come on. Creative people, maybe walk-in.
Maybe. Maybe everyone is.
And maybe everybody's
But
a
we all kind of, like you said, came through that birth canal and got compressed and came with a little soul attached. They were trying to figure out what it is.
the information in the junk DNA, and why is that not paid?
Yeah, why is that? Yeah.
What's that? What is like, I'm like a little kid every day. I have more questions for Rebecca.
The injectable nanoparticles that go beyond the brain-blood barrier. What's happening there? What's happening with all that genetic mRNA
That's why I didn't.
tinkering? Is that hybridization? I don't know. Maybe.
It's transhumanization, so I would say that they're both the same thing. Like if they're putting nanoparticles that are based in some kind of substance that can be controlled with scalar waves that counteract our own scalar, like it hacks our
Natural, yeah.
scalar waves, get hacked by electronic synthetic is the wrong word. Like I'm just feeling into, see, I get that weird look and I start feeling into the field and then
Yeah, no, I see exactly where you're going. And I think I think the whole injectable nanoparticles that break the blood-brain barrier, especially attached to mRNA, that is a genetic modification. I think that's why that the hybridization and the word hybrid was brought in because they were planning on bringing this in. They were planning on humans feeling like they'd been hybridized.
but we already have in the first place. If many
Yeah.
non-human intelligence, what we call them,
And
like
and I think a lot of us, I would say many of us, probably you included, came in with an awareness that we had past lives in these civilizations that did hybridization, and how much of that was involved with free will, how much was that involved with transparency, how many of us knew what was going on and maybe lived through it in a positive, negative way, and are back here today
look, muscle
to bring
memory.
some knowledge to that.
There's energy memory. It's not just muscle cell memory. There's
Yeah.
energetic memory. That's
Yeah. Akashic records. But I think it is, I mean, it's part of our evolutionary DNA. I mean, one of the things we talk about in exoconsciousness is that this whole movement of humans out into space, whether it's the moon or Mars, and I worked for those 6 years with Dr. Mitchell, and he never really said this, but I always felt like he would get it if I said it, was that this is really a spiritual pilgrimage for humans into space, and that this is part of our evolutionary DNA, that we have the cosmos inside of us. So we have the cosmos inside of us, and we also have this amazing memory of these other civilizations that we're bringing to the fore and talking about it, whether it's Lemuria or Egypt or whatever it is. I mean, this is about, and if you're unable to think and live and communicate on a soul level of your DNA, you're not really going to get the story.
right. And I think that's where psionics come in, because I think the psionic is where the connect point is. That latent ability that we all have there, the connect point is somewhere in that, because that's where you can zone into whatever information you want, look at an ideogram and understand an encyclopedia A to Z full of stuff and not know, like, it doesn't matter how, you don't need to know how, you just need to know that you were entangled and you got
That's part of, yeah.
stop questioning, stop, just be.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of like the art of being, again, we're back to that. We're magical creatures. We get hungry, we think. Next thing you know, you're in the kitchen making a sandwich, and next thing you know, you're, 8 hours later on the toilet giving it back to mama. Like, how's that not magic? It is. It sounded maybe a little TMI and a little off the way I chose to describe it.
Everybody can relate to it.
Thank you. I try to be relatable. This is what I do.
Yeah,
I
you
open
are.
people and interrupt people a lot. I'm sorry if I've done that.
Yeah, it's a
And
great conversation.
I think so. I like it. And I'm fascinated by the fact that you're asking me questions because my first introduction to you was through a lovely young man, who you'll recognize maybe on my wall if I can turn my computer. Oh dear. Can you see that? It's hard. Getting this guy to sit still long enough and talk to me. Good luck, Chuck.
Oh, Neil. Yeah.
Friend. No.
Yeah, I love Neil. Yeah.
Talk about somebody who's facilitating for humanity, like on a big scale. That
Mhm.
guy is serious. Oof, 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 ooh. Dude, you know what happened, right? Oof. All the hairs just stood up. It's amazing. These didn't do that. They should have. They just got this. Yeah. Ew. Got a little Neil going on right now. Wow.
Yeah.
That guy's
He
super.
just emailed me today because I'd sent him this thing where, oh, this is interesting. So well, first of all, just for your audience. So I worked for 6 years in Washington, D.C. with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was Apollo 14 astronaut. And we worked on zero point energy, consciousness, and the extraterrestrial presence. And we really did a lot. And it was just a very, very interesting time in my life. So now Musk is on the scene. Edgar's passed away. And Musk just came out and said, so to backtrack. So Neil is doing a, a, a seminar on the moon, Mars, and beyond. And so I sent Neil an article where Musk came out and said that it would take 8 rockets to get to the moon. So send one rocket up, send another rocket up to refuel that rocket, send another rocket up to refuel that rocket, and another rocket up to refuel that rocket. So, as if to say we didn't really go to the moon, and maybe we went into low Earth orbit. I don't know, but I think a lot's going to come out about the things that Edgar and I worked on with zero point energy with the scientists. I think a lot of that's been underground and under wraps. It's going to come out.
Is each human being zero? I mean, I feel like I'm the zero. I am the 0 point. Like a
Yeah,
lot
you are the zero point. Yeah,
doing light language. Like I'd be doing the
yeah,
stuff, and then out of nowhere, I the 0 point. Like right now, I could even start channeling stuff that's not
yeah.
coming from my brain.
I love that.
We are the 0 point. I am the.
Yeah, I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I feel that. Like
And also the reality that I learned, just working with him was how many really quite genius and special humans were involved in, zero point energy, and yet, never really got the funding, never really got the support. And if they were on the right track, they were scooped up and put into some kind of, classified secret program that never saw the light of day again until it was deemed time to bring them out. So, and that's another reality of being the zero point. They were the zero point. They got zeroed out, unfortunately.
yeah, well, that seems to happen a lot to people.
Yeah.
Wet works, water works. What do they call it? Both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are definitely, I don't know, people who, some humans who just really want to keep all that information to themselves, and I should stop.
I think that's breaking down. I think that's I think I don't know. I have a really good friend. Her name's Susan Manwich, and she's actually getting her PhD in Germany on geomagnetics, natural geomagnetics, natural changes that are happening in the solar system with the sun, and the solar radiation and the Schumann resonance and how it actually affects humans and human intelligence. You might want to have her on your show. Um, she's a contactee also. And so, yeah, I just feel like some of these classified programs, some of these, underground installations, some of these ops that are being constructed, I don't, just like humans are going to be so affected by these geo changes in the universe that's happening, that I just don't think it's going to hold together in the same way. It can't.
Well, I don't know how people start relating to themselves as energy as opposed to matter first, energy first, because we're both. Like, so I have to
Yeah,
stop like that. Like, energy first, matter second, uh,
sure.
all together at the same time. No wonder my family thinks I'm nuts. Like, listen to the words that came out of my mouth just now. But they make sense to you.
Yeah, totally.
You need new friends, Leanne. Wow, wow.
Yes, I think that once again, it kind of goes into that idea of being curious, having critical thinking, being discerning, being a citizen scientist. If this knowledge can't hold together and stay private and stay secret and stay classified, and it does come out, you're going to have to be ahead of the curve to be able to integrate it and live in it.
Well, and then again, how many jobs does that open for Rebecca and Leanne? Help people
How many scripts will that make?
the day humanity changed. Look, it didn't go so well.
Well, you know what? It's happening as we speak, in my humble opinion.
I,
It's happening as we speak. And really, I do believe that humans are encoded with the capability to handle all that's happening.
well, but that goes back to our energetic memory. If it's in there
Hmm.
and look, if our solar system is going through that Goldilocks zone, we've got solar
Hmm.
flares,
Yeah,
all energies are like bubbling right now.
yeah.
So all of that, one would think that all boats are going to float, right? There aren't going to be we're anchored, like we're all going to float. So
Hmm.
um, remembering, maybe the species will remember what's been dismembered somehow.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think we're all in the process of that right now, where it's all, it's all unfolding, and it's unfolding beautifully. I mean, if you have your equities and your profession in the classified programs, you might not be too happy about it, but it's happening for sure.
Well,
I mean, I can even tell, like, so I went to work with Edgar about 2009, 2008, 2009. And then I moved to DC in 2011 to work with him directly as a Washington DC representative. So it's 2011. So 2011 to today, there's been a massive shift in this information coming out that I did not feel in 2011. 2011, I kept feeling like I was just, and I'll be just really transparent here. So Edgar really asked me to come to work with him because I'm an extraterrestrial experiencer, and he had a lot of respect for that, which I respect him for that. But I really felt at that time that I was always just hitting this brick wall all the time, that everything was like behind this impenetrable wall that was not allowed to come forth. And I'm not feeling like that today. I don't feel like that today.
there's less resistance, is what I'm feeling. I guess
Yeah.
just generally there's less
It's
resistance.
more fluid.
It's more fluid, and the information is flowing more freely in the
Mhm.
ether realms.
Yeah, and the money, quite frankly, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with the tariff situation or the money situation or the stable currency or stable coin or Bitcoin or whatever. But money is certainly being redefined right now. And that's the optimum time, maybe, for some of these once classified programs to come out into the open because new avenues of money are coming forward. Maybe it's the time for your script to come forward. Same thing.
Well, maybe that's why it never got made, and the people who optioned it never actually got it made back in the 90s. It wasn't time.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely, it was ahead of its curve for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
this isn't like an experiencer necessarily. I mean, at least he's never said anything about having an experience or being a client.
Mhm.
Um, Talk to me more about Edgar Mitchell because I know somebody who talks a lot. Like, and I don't know if I want to out him right now, but he's got some what people consider to be very tall tales about Area 51. Um, but Ed Mitchell is somebody with whom he says he spent time, and same with Neil Armstrong. Um,
Mhm.
Spent more time with Viola Armstrong than Neil. Um, so he knows some stuff. Um, like they definitely saw things that they were not allowed to talk about. And even when I watched the press conference afterwards, whatever they were told not to say made them their vibe was just keep my head down, say as little as possible, get out of here fast. Like, but don't be disrespectful to your country. And
Right.
it was
And they were by and large all, Edgar was a Navy fighter pilot, so they all came out of that naval military love of country, patriotic mindset. Yeah, I mean Edgar went to the Cape every month. He lived in Florida, so I lived in D.C. He lived in Florida, but he went to the Cape every month for debriefing and rebriefing. Yeah, so there was a constant, their life. I don't think they knew that when they went into the program, but it was certainly, you were constantly monitored, you were constantly updated. But despite that, Edgar decided to really become the astronaut that I think did the most for disclosure of anyone. So,
most transparent and the one who was most willing to speak up about things
right.
to the extent that he could without being
To the extent that he could. Yeah, and I'm was always very realistic. And not only was he um, willing to, gotta go out on a limb and talk about disclosure and how, things were being classified and kept secret, but he was also willing to go out on a line to say that, we have got to bring these exotic technologies, zero point energy, these unified field technologies, we've got to bring them to the fore for the planet, for the good of the planet. And that was very brave also. So he was not only, talking about, creating ions, the Institute of Pneumatic Sciences. He was doing that for consciousness sake. And then he was talking about disclosure and the extraterrestrial presence. And then he was talking about the need to bring out these exotic technologies, many of which, I think a lot of that, just the scientists that I worked with, I mean, many of them were downloaded with that information like we've been talking about from the field of consciousness or from their cosmic memory. Um, so he was willing to actually go out on a limb and talk about that also. So he was very forceful and very influential, I think. And it was a big loss, when he passed away.
how many people do you think are actually aware of everything Edgar was aware of? Sorry.
Well, people don't even know. I mean, it's so funny that younger generation don't even know. I mean, you say Apollo astronauts, they don't. I remember one time I said to my kids something about Barbara Streisand, and they all went, "Who's Barbara Streisand?"
I just put
I knew it was all over.
I just put two pictures of her in a music video about roller skating that I got hired to
Yeah.
up Barbara
Well, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but I think that it's
I
it's
told
it's kind of. I'm
badly.
sorry.
How many other friends of Edgar's who were in the program with him were aware of all the things he was aware of and just wouldn't speak up the way he did? I mean,
Oh, I think that Apollo program is full of people that wouldn't speak up.
and what if everybody spoke up all at the same time, wouldn't every The secret keepers have to sit down?
Yeah, but I think people had different, they had different perspectives of life and different perspectives of what their mission in life was going to be. So interestingly enough, we're talking today about the Russian co cosmos, where a lot of the ideas of exoconsciousness are very, very directly connected to the Russian space program.
Cosmos?
And pardon me?
Roscosmos?
No, it's a theoretical perspective that, yeah, that Russia developed around space travel and cosmic knowledge and that sort of thing, cosmic consciousness. And yeah, it's just very interesting. We're going to do our community is going to do probably do a study on that because I'm friends with a Russian young man that trains cosmonauts, but he's very entrenched in this cosmic theory that Russia has had for decades.
Is
That's really important.
that
Pardon me?
remote viewing part of that?
No, it's not remote viewing. It's more of a consciousness perspective.
No, I'm just wondering if they fold remote viewing into any.
Oh, I don't know. They could. Yeah, he's really into the paranormal and that sort of thing, but he's really into also just nuts and bolts of training cosmonauts. But it's just interesting because things just kind of coalesce together. These threads all come together. If you look at like all the RFK files are dropping right now, some are dropping. I should clarify that. But it's interesting because there's been dark journalist Daniel List makes a big connection between NASA's involvement with the JFK assassination and how he was going to make a big announcement with a scientist. I think his name is Bissell after the motorcade, and no one's found that speech.
Lloyd Berkner. He was going to
Yeah,
see.
Berkner. Yeah, he's going to talk to Lloyd Berkner. So no one can find that speech. I don't really think it was NASA. I think it was NASA, but I think it was really, I think it was bankers. I think it was a money thing. It was a money thing. I think the bankers were sort of like pushing the point of the spear into the assassination. But it's just interesting that all of this is coming up right now with, the dropping of the JFK files and what that means and the NASA and the space program and the absolute pushback against his wanting to cooperate with the Russians. So maybe it's a new era.
It's possible. You know,
Like I said, I'm always looking for little cracks to get through.
I don't blame you because that's you have to find the crack because otherwise it looks like a solid wall, but nothing's actually solid.
But it's not.
We know this. It's quantum reality. Nothing is solid. There's always a hole. There's always a way in,
Yeah.
which means also always a way out, theoretically.
Well, I think your perspective is really essential for creatives and people in the film industry and people in Hollywood because, you need to keep talking because I think they need some positive reinforcement right now.
I think so too. I mean, producers are blaming it on, first they made deals with big tech, and that's when it all went out the window. And now we've got AI, and now we've got all the permits that you need. And I know, my friend Dean is shooting a couple things in Serbia right now because it's easy.
Yeah, I've been reading about that.
Like, what? You know,
I think Rob Lowe just came out and made a big statement about how it's cheaper to ship everybody over to Poland and make a movie than to do it anywhere in America.
it's yes.
I think a lot of people like, Rob's a very mainstream kind of actor. For him to come out and, be very vocal about that, I think that was positive.
I think so. I mean, the first guy that comes out and says something wacky about Hollywood that's just the truth that goes against the narrative, then it's the second guy who's actually got the courage to come out.
Mhm.
And back
Yeah,
up.
and he does. He actually spent some of his childhood at catty corner from my house. I know his dad really well.
He's an interesting guy. Like
He's a very interesting guy. Yeah, and he's brave to come out and,
I'd love
you
to
know,
hear him. Talk
That's why I think what you're doing is really important and it needs to be, you need to give yourself a pat on the back, Leanne. Yeah.
I'm doing my best. Like, okay, so let's go back to the word that you don't like, neurodivergent, because it puts in a juxtaposition and it separates us. How would you describe, like, I'm a multi-dimensional, I function better in a multi-dimensional uh,
Hmm.
uh, environment because it's more natural to me. Like, how would you describe it? Is that the way to say it?
I think so. Yeah.
'Cause-
But that whole word divergent, I mean, it's like neural divergent. It's like you're
and
weird. You're not weird. You're normal.
right, well,
Humans are normally multidimensional. Humans are normally exoconscious. It's a commonplace thing.
the
It's
education
not weird. It's not strange.
the education system beats it out of you by teaching you how to conform and pay attention to dogma and
Mhm.
train you to go into like 9 to 5 world where you listen to your boss.
Yeah, but I really don't think that this next generation, I've got a lot of grandkids. I really don't think they're going to swallow that pill as readily as maybe I did. But I never really swallowed it, to be honest with you.
Hey, don't
You didn't swallow it either.
swallow
There's a lot of kids that don't swallow it.
Crest or Colgate, none of it. I'd rather brush my
Yeah, yeah.
oil, guys. There's no fluoride in that. Olive oil. Jooga, 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 jooga. You can always rinse with peroxide if you want to really clean it out. It's so simple to be alternative.
Are you seeing, so what we're talking about in Hollywood, and the creative industry there, what are you seeing in terms of living in New York and being around the Broadway creative people?
Well, the only Broadway creative person I'm around at the moment, that was more my mom. My mom did
Okay.
shows. So I grew up with a lot of Broadway people from back then. Like there's a lady named Millicent Martin. Most people would know her as playing Daphne's mom on the show Frasier. Or
Yeah.
or recently she was on a show with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda where I think she plays their maid. I don't know. I don't remember. But Millie is a good friend. I grew up with Millie, and they were all, I mean, they're products of World War II, in my mom's case, the Depression. My mom was born in 1923. So their whole psychology was what it was because it was engineered for the times, like ours is for these times. Um, I know back then it was far more innocent. Even the yuppie,
I feel that. Yeah, that's a good term.
it was more like now 42nd Street is kind of Disneyfied and slickified, and there's Elmo and like with the tourists, and he'll probably grab your ass before you get away from him. I mean, it's crazy. I'd rather have the hookers and the porno movie houses. It was more real.
Yeah.
So I think as much as you're so beautiful, you love to focus on the positive things. And it's less, I don't mean to be a negative Nelly, but like you have to be like if you don't know your sneeze is because of a cold, how do you get rid of the sneeze? So you have to inform yourself. Like this whole it was just more real in the 70s. You know, now it's like this fake and then extra layer of manipulated fear and trying to keep people in survival. Trump is this and then that. And like they always have to point at the politicians. It's just this general. It's all,
Well, I think what you're describing is really the whole what was put together. So just historically, World War One was really a mind control chemical warfare war to see how the shell shock soldiers would recuperate or live from this, and take that knowledge and then move that into the Tavistock Institute in England, and then they took that as a way to control humans. And then they took that knowledge, and that knowledge went into the Macy conferences and the Macy conferences here in America. And that got further refined into digitalization, computerization, ones and zeros, artificial reality, cybernetics as another way to control. So when you say it felt more real in the 70s, that's why. It's because it's been we live in a digitalized world. Alana Freeland, in terms of geoengineering, she has this beautiful phrase that she uses: artificial atmospheric air ionization. So the entire atmosphere around us today is artificially being geoengineered.
Yeah.
So of course we're going to feel like things were more real back in the 70s. There was real weather, there were real clouds, there were real genes and genetics. That this has all been engineered, and we're responsible as exoconscious humans to be aware of that, but also, like you say, I'm going to determine what my reality is. I'm going to look for those cracks or those opportunities to say, this is the kind of life I want to have on this earth. I mean, really, let's just talk nuts and bolts here. Do you really think that an extraterrestrial is going to really want to meet a robot? I don't think so. A human, sure. A genetically modified hybrid human, probably not. They probably got plenty of those. A human, yeah.
Much as we're volatile, we also have emotions and vulnerability and all that other stuff that
And we're real.
we're creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Creative.
Yeah. And we can create with them, which goes back to that whole foundational concept in exoconsciousness is that. So I always felt like, all of this, like CE5 or UFO task force or RO or whatever, I'm going to prove this craft, I'm going to prove that craft. For me, the bottom line in exoconsciousness is your proof is going to be your life. Your proof is going to be how you live, how you co-create with the beings that you're in contact with, and what happens with that knowledge and that co-creation. Is it for the goodness of humanity and the earth? Then there's your proof. Like, okay, if I was a physicist or I was an energy inventor, and when I received downloads that I moved them into being something for the goodness of earth, for all people, there's your proof. Did I come up with this on my own? No, I created it with an extraterrestrial being. I created it with a cosmic being. There's your proof. That is so much better than, oh, there's a TikTok craft and, there's something else. I mean, what's that proof?
No, we have 9 distinctions now from Skywatcher. They've
Yeah.
now the I don't know. They call
Oh,
it
the egg,
no, oh wait, it's an egg, it's a jellyfish,
a triangle.
hornet, something like they're all these things to identify that there are 9 classifications that up with which they have come so far. And I'm just thinking, but you yourself said to Ross Coulthart more than once in the interview that the exchange was telepathic. It was a feeling. It was thoughts and feelings, and it was a feeling that was just permeates everything. Well, I've had that feeling in meditations where my heart is so like I then tears, and it's just so and I can get there like right now. I can even get to that. Oh, it's hard to breathe, just being so grateful for here now. That's Joseph Campbell. You want to feel alive? That's how to do it. Direct.
Yeah, I was listening. I wrote down Jake Barber's psionic description of a psychic person that I took off Twitter: left-handed and gay. That was his description. They do the best. They're the most psychic. Left-handed gay people are the most psychic. And then we go into other people that say, well, only people that live in the gamma state are psychic, or only people with Rh negative blood type are psychic, or only neurodivergent people are psychic, or traumatized people, or people that go do ayahuasca and LSD, or have a CE5. They're the only ones that are psychic. And exoconscious comes back and says, no, we all have it. It's just ordinary and common.
Do you
It's
know
got
that
nothing to do.
I terrorize? I shouldn't use that word because here I am doing what I do. No, I've been very persistently messaging Mr. Ross Coulthard. I love him. Um, but sometimes I get frustrated because he's asking questions that to me are redundant if you accept like in there's a book called The Road Less Traveled, and the very first
Oh
thing
yeah, Peckman, is that his name? Was that?
hard. Once you can accept that,
Yeah.
then the playing field changes. Well, Ross, you have to accept that consciousness is a thing.
Yeah, Russ isn't in the consciousness. Yeah, I've communicated with him quite a bit because the
You speak with him? He's going to be in
oh
the desert, you know. Are you
yeah,
going?
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I know Russ. Yeah.
Steve Bassett's trying to get me to go to Contact, and like I'm this close to booking a round trip ticket, and telling my husband you giving me the Maserati because I'm not driving to Palm Springs in that rust bucket of a Honda. Mm. So I can go be Hollywood in LA for just a minute after living in New York and eating pizza. No. But yeah, seriously, I'm this close to just going just so that I can talk to that dude.
Well, Russ came through Australia and the Wilson documents. So Edgar was connected to the Wilson documents, and that's why I knew. I knew actually the person that brought the Wilson documents to Ross, and then Ross called me and we talked about the Wilson documents and Edgar. But that was the Wilson documents were never a big deal to Edgar. I mean, Ross is really a relatively newcomer to the field of ufology.
He's trying really hard. He's obsessed with
Yes.
obsessed with psionics,
Yeah.
and not to talk about Ross because he gets enough attention. That blue-eyed tall man, 6'6". Oh my God, I want to stand next to him and just take a picture and just be like,
How tall are you, Leanne?
high five, high five,
Ah,
five,
five five's a good number.
pounds ish, give or take, depending on what's going in the pie hole and how I'm feeling. Um, all those fun girly things. Um, I don't really have too many girly things. I'm going to be 60 on my next birthday. Thank you. Thank you. That went away. Although, something about the reproductive system is fascinating and so cool. And it's so cool to be a girl and be able to carry a life. Like I did it three.
Yeah.
You'd think after the first time people would say never again. But, there I was.
I love being pregnant and being a mom.
Mine came with a little trauma, but overall, I loved it. But it was kind of like for them, for the two first ones, it was like having a kid, like a big sister raising you that pulled rank when she needed to by being big or scary. Is that- Even though I had read Seth Speaks. So, and it, crazy thing, 19 years old, high school dropout, not intellectual, hate reading. I don't like sitting, drives me nuts. Can't do it. Seth,
Yeah.
I ripped through that book, man. I sat there, and even though I didn't understand a fucking thing I was reading, I understood everything I was reading, and it made me feel
I
better.
love that. I love that.
Feel better. It
Yeah.
mandated reading for summer reading lists like that, you know, and then coming back to it 30 years later, 35 years later, and understanding it at a much different level here, taking care of my mom, watching her, seeing beings in her room with her because the veil was thin. I was watching all kinds of stuff, like talking back to some of the ones who were being a little pushy with her and seemingly enjoying her being in fear. I would tell them to get, she can't protect herself, but I'm telling you, she'd go, you're so courageous. I'm like, yeah, excuse me. You protected me my whole life. It's my turn. Get out of here.
Good.
Mr. Alligator guy. And then when he finally left, she said, you're going to laugh. I said, why? His tail is swishing behind him.
Oh, that's very connected to the Egyptian underworld. Alligators.
It was very interesting, but he was bossy and he wasn't very nice and he was bullying her a little bit.
What's that? What's that Egyptian god that is the alligator head? I can't remember.
Who's that cosmic cosmic personality who came down and looked like that? You mean?
Yeah. Well, no, there is an Egyptian god that has an alligator on his head for a head, like a hybrid.
Hey Google, or hey, I don't even know how to talk to my own thing. This is how dorky I am. And I like it. I'm glad. Hey Siri, who was the Egyptian god with an alligator head? Sobek. The Egyptian.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm your meat and potatoes Egyptian god lady. I know Isis, Osiris, and Horus.
Yeah. Yeah, Sobek, yeah. It's connected to the underworld. It's connected to death and transition. No mistake, it showed up.
You know what? And it's funny because my friend, when I lived in LA, my mom, she hated it. She would never, I'm never gonna, so I had to come to her. So I wasn't gonna put her in a place.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me right now? That's what you modeled because you needed to not doing that to you.
Well, it's so cool because you also missed all those LA wildfires.
Oh, yes, I did. My daughter and my husband still live there, and they live right at the border. My daughter lives at the northern end, of, like close to San Vicente, where it
Hmm.
stopped. But I saw lasers pointed at a few different places.
Yeah.
Started
Plasma technology, baby.
right. It's plastic. They don't want to talk about that. Why? Like the dom down in Antarctica that we talked about. My friend Eric Hecker, he's the one. He's the reason I know that it was Berkner that JFK was going to go see, and they were going to talk about how to disclose about all the aliens.
Yeah, Berkner, yeah. I don't know. Nobody's ever found the speech
I'm sure, like they put it in their 1960s shredder, like whatever that is, fireplace,
or a file somewhere at Langley.
or at the Vatican, even worse.
Nah, it went to Langley.
Like, I hate to even bring up the name. Yeah, well, let's go on to psionics. I mean, like psionics and children, and like what is and people think that the trafficking that goes on is all about sex. Well, some of it is, but a lot of it is organ harvesting, and there are documented humans that are logged in, and then they're logged as missing, and then nobody can tell us where they are. Well, they've been shared by rich people who need a liver, some lungs, a heart, and are you sure you got a pig intestine and you're a pig valve? Like, are you sure? Pig valve? It's creepy. Nobody wants to talk about that either. Like, and I don't know if YouTube's going to give me a strike or tell me. I don't care. I don't tell me to be quiet. I'm not doing it. Kill my body. Can't kill my consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote a whole Substack on
Recently,
child. Yeah,
like it's been the last two, haven't it? The last two.
yeah, the last couple, yeah, have been all about children and what's going on with children, research with children. But if you think about it, so back to our conversation, Leanne, and I'm going to have to go in a couple minutes, but back to our conversation. So we were talking about living in a geoengineered environment, living in a genetically modified human environment. Now, if you had, do you know Catherine Austin Fitts?
I know the name.
Okay, so she's the one that really came out and revealed the $21 trillion in missing money. So 21 trillion, you could start a civilization with that if you wanted to, okay? So what if, so she's also identified that there's potentially 170 US underground bases.
Only
Yeah. So let's just look at that. Let's look at that for a minute. So $21 trillion in missing money, 170 underground bases. Could we be looking at experimentations with children? Because that was certainly part of the government, the CIA, MK Ultra work after during the Second World War and after the Second World War. This whole child experimentation that I document in my Substack. would you, knowing that you're creating a genetically modified human, knowing that you're creating a geoengineered artificial atmosphere to live in, wouldn't you go possibly underground and create a race of children who could survive and live in this transhuman environment?
Makes sense to me.
I'm not saying it happened.
But it's a perfectly linear.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's linear. It's a perfectly linear explanation of what's going on. And so, what is our responsibility for these children? What's our responsibility for these hybridized children that could be released onto the earth at this point?
Talk to David Jacobs. He's all freaked out about hybrids, but the wrong ones.
The wrong ones. Thank you. I totally agree.
But that's when we have, I make my jokes, Mr. the king of inbreeding. My name is.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I've been in ufology for a long time. I've been in exopolitics for decades. I get so tired of laying the blame on ET. ET is just the convenient cover story for Intel or the military. If you or the bankers, if you want to hide what you're doing, you lay on the ET story. So it just gets so tiresome after a while, and I think a lot of people are tired of that. It's gaslighting. It's just gaslighting, and it's
I just
it
want.
makes no sense.
I'm really sorry.
Nobody's buying it anymore. It's not working anymore.
I'm really sorry that you have gone through all that. Like as somebody, like, I don't want to say too much, but I'm so sorry that we live in a space and time and a time and space where that exists. And not to be like all martyry or whatever, but if it takes being ridiculed, if it takes being sick to death of this stuff, and ET always being blamed for the things that the humans are doing, like if that's what it takes, and if it comes to a head at some point, then so be it, I guess, because at some point truth is like a flame and it burns through. It just
Yeah,
does.
I just don't. Yeah, I actually think that these artificial narratives, like we were talking about the geomagnetics, I actually feel like they're not going to hold together anymore. Quite frankly, they're going to fall apart. They're not going to be sustained. Consciousness has moved beyond them, and quit blaming ET. The ET threat. Stop it. Just stop doing that because it's not working. It's kind of like when you raise your kids and you got an adolescent daughter that's driving you crazy. At some point, you just got to say, stop the behavior. It's not working anymore. It's not working. It's the same thing.
I see you. First of all, I did it, so
Yeah.
I'll see you. Stop. Sit down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not working.
Dinner anyway. Ha ha ha. Yes, it's a competition. No, it's not. Well, but part of the next generation, you know, it's us speaking up that'll help things change for them. And again, being aware of these things isn't necessarily being a doom and gloomster. It's saying,
No.
look, here's a spinny thing. If you like to fidget, you can do that. And then when Rebecca talks, maybe you won't shut up and stop interrupting. You know,
Or maybe we'll visit while I do talk. That's okay too.
saying like if you're here showing tools and then getting shut down, pushed back at it, I don't know. These conversations are really good. I feel like
I really enjoyed talking with you. I thank you very much for inviting me.
again because I want to talk more about things that nobody likes talking about. Not to be ugly, doom and gloom, but to throw out the
Yeah.
information. People can they don't want to take accountability, but it's happening on our watch, so we have to take accountability
Well,
for
we're the adults in the room.
we're supposed to be. But
No, we are. We're the adults in the room.
the infants are in charge of society, though, is kind of.
Well, if we allow that, but I'm personally not doing that. I'm personally going to be an adult in the room.
I will try to continue. Well, I want to be the biggest kid in the room, always. youngest one in the room. Look, I'm an only child. It's and an actress. It's double stacked there.
Double stack, double time. You're doing double time.
Rebecca, it's been an absolute
I know. I just love you, and thank you so much for having me.
so much. I'm so flattered and I'm very privileged. And you guys out there, if you have any questions for Rebecca or for me, drop them in the comments.
That'd be great.
Get in with us. I'll keep writing the frequency. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Leanne. Take care.
Oh my goodness gracious. What a fabulous conversation. I love that. I love that talk. I tried really hard not to talk too much and overspeak her. Sorry if I did it again. Yeah, probably 7 or 8 times I can think of that I did it. I'm kind of not sorry. It's just it's just what I did. All right. Definitely go check out Exo Consciousness. Go to the website. I'll put all the information in the description. Keep riding the frequency, you guys. Keep having the conversations. And for goodness sake, remember, you're the awareness. Live long and prosper. Love you. They're not pointy.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? One.
Frequency, frequency, frequency.
I'm Leanne. I'm Leanne. I'm Leanne. Are you ready to ride the frequency? Are you ready to ride the frequency?